And yeah, everyone, this is Thermite coming at you. New Year's Eve, we're doing it. It's the weekly Shonen Jump 2023 tier list. I've always wanted to do something on New Year's Eve, and I've done it, I think once before. Some year I did something that I can't even remember right now. Oh yeah, I did the, watching all my favorites video. That was insane. I don't know if anyone ever saw that. This is something that is actually channel relevant. That'll be pretty fun. Big thank you to Houmii, friend of the channel, believer in the channel, despite us having exact opposite opinions almost all of the time. Thank you very much, Houmii. Incredibly appreciate this. Also, shout out to Hap, who of course was the one who actually made the tier list physically, but I'm giving credit for this actually happening to to Houmii. That, and also, of course, this extremely handy list of the series and chapters included. I've opened up here, as you may notice. Up here, we have all the various jump series. For the ones that didn't start this year, it's like Akane-banashi, for instance. Chapter 45 to current, I have chapter 45 open. And so that's how I've got most of these set up. There's a couple that I'm going to have to immediately throw into haven't read. That said, yeah, I guess we'll just go through it in alphabetical order, which is also the order here, except for Mission Yozakura Family, which is at the very end, because, I guess why for Yozakura, but I may as well just immediately toss it into haven't read. To make it perfectly clear, this is not, as of 2023, how would I rank all of these series? This is specifically within 2023, how would I rank all these series? So One Piece, I am not in fact ranking all of One Piece against everything else. I'm ranking this year's One Piece to everything else, which I do think, I'm basically going to have it be I'll look at the first chapter, I'll remember the rest. If I can't remember anything, that's a really bad sign. Also, quite obviously, spoilers. Spoilers for every series. I will say the name of the series. I could do timestamps for all of these, actually. I was gonna say that'd be a bit silly, but, even if it's only a minute or two, it shouldn't hurt. While I'm editing now, I can just lay down timestamps and they more or less work out. I'll edit them manually. It'll be fine. So, okay. I'll commit to it right now. Timestamps down below, and of course, the way YouTube is set up at the time that I'm recording this, that'll also create little segments that you can jump to chapters. So just skip over whatever you don't want to read. Likewise, if I've just straight up not read a series at all, and it's probably not going to be down there, just assume that I've skipped over it, at the end of a different segment. Like Yozakura Family. There's going to be no Yozakura segment, because, I didn't read a Yozakura Family this year. I think that's basically all the rules, all the boring stuff. This will be an intro segment that you could have also skipped. Let's actually start the concept with Akane-banashi. Oh no, this is Yozakura. There we are, Akane-banashi. What chapter was this? Oh, right. Okay, yes, this was the Urara chapter. I mean, this was in the Urara arc. Yes. We actually... Oh, I didn't even think about it. Very recently, we actually called back to this exact chapter. And now I am wondering, was that the mangaka specifically, it works out pretty well. But I wonder if that was the mangaka also looking back and doing a quick, how do I, reference the beginning of the year here in order to, create a feeling of continuity, in order to create a nice little callback when this eventually gets an anime. There's a lot of, pacing things like that I don't think about a lot, but it's very apparent when a series that, doesn't have, that kind of pacing in mind, whether it's volume pacing or year pacing or, future anime pacing in mind. Because, the series itself ends up being very strangely formatted if you try and change it to other things. Oh, but yeah, so that means, this was the year where she learned, over the course of this year, Akane has gone from learning something that absolutely does not suit her, and yet, having to, evolve her art in order to suit that, to then trying to, capture a spark of her father's art, failing at it, and then, in a way, figuring it out. On stage, realizing, oh, wait a minute, it's my father's weakness. That is what makes his art his art. That's what makes it distinct. I can channel that as well. The classic mid-battle shonen power-up. And now we're ending off the year with her, potential, kind of the opposite position of, being with a teacher who does suit her energy very well, but also realizing, wait a minute, the way I tell Roboco stories isn't quite suited to the energy I have off screen. Like, there is a mismatch there now that she has to surpass. It's been quite a good year. Not to mention, like, what is her name? Her rival has been absolutely killing it as well. I guess when I say rival, I'm thinking of, oh crap, what is her name? But the girl with the pearlescent hair. But her male rival, Kanshi, was that his name? No, that's the guy from Witch Watch. I'm so bad at this. Anyways, we've had arcs with both of them this year. It's been a nice, like, development factor. We've honestly covered a lot of ground, so yeah. I think I would slap her maybe in, like, B territory, B to A. Because I would say it also lines up with, like, how I've ranked the series. We've had a fair number of highs, but not a lot of, like, chart topping highs to me. Like, overall, it's definitely a B, and, like, a B is pretty damn good, I think. Like, C is not good, or, it's not so good, but it's kind of waffly. D, I would say, is like, oof. There's no F here, actually. So I should probably, like, calibrate that as well. I guess, yeah, so if D is the lowest we can go, then that is the, like, I think that does also fit the way I rank, to be fair. I rarely say I don't like a thing, because usually I do like a thing. So yeah, I think this works out. I think this works out. I'll give Akane-banashi a B for being very, very solid, but for most of its chapters, I think being very workmanlike in terms of how much I enjoy them. It manages to capture me, and especially given the subject matter, it is, it's a lot harder to capture one's attention than, just by throwing a few punches or doing a big explosion. And so I commend it for that. It's usually just the most climactic parts of each arc that truly, truly grip me like nothing grips me. So, yeah, that's that. Next, of course, we have Black Clover. Ooh, so this was right after we were fighting the, it wasn't the kill, right? No, they had cut off the heads of the Hydra, and then we were just having the fight around it. Oh, right. This was the chapter where she remembered, like, oh, right. I was given the evil pills that made me go nuts. But yeah, so this means that we did, like, most of the training in the Land of the Sun was the previous year. So this was just capitalizing on it, like, seeing how powerful Asta had finally become. Oh, yeah. The big save, cutting to the Clover Kingdom, seeing all the, like, the second stage of the Clover Kingdom fighting back, seeing, the effects of Never Never Land. It's been a pretty damn good year for Black Clover. And honestly, it's tough. Like, this might be the best year Black Clover can have, considering that we're going to, like, a chapter every 3 months. Just in terms of quantity, I guess, to be fair, depending on the ranking, that might be good, in that if all 4 of those chapters are bangers, then it's really hard to say it's not, like, 10 out of 10, like, that everything that it put out this year is not extremely good. Like, there is a quantity thing to, like, balance out there, too, as well. So this is the highest quantity of Black Clover chapters we can have. Not quite as many as the previous year, but, like, they were pretty good, they're pretty memorable. Even the last 2 chapters we got were very, very memorable, extremely cool. Getting Asta back into the fight, getting the Black Bull, getting the ultimate Black Bulls into the fight. I would say in terms of, like, absolute engagements, the Dark Triad probably still gripped me the most, but it's tricky. Like, the Elf arc, I think, had the most, like, novelty in my mind. Then the Dark Triad arc was more, like, explosive, but at the same time, it was more like fleshing out stuff we had already set up. And then this arc, I mean, they're all introducing new stuff, but I think, like, the amount at which I was wowed and, like, losing my mind over the new stuff being added has lowered each successive arc. And, part of it's just, it's hard to continuously escalate. Like, we've quite literally been escalating in terms of, like, how powerful Lucius is, the fact that we're fighting, like, 50 Luciuses that all have the same amount of mana. It's insane. But, it doesn't hit quite as hard as all of Lucius's siblings, even though they were each way weaker than he is. And then even the siblings, even though they were powered by much stronger devils than the Word Devil, I do think the Word Devil hit the hardest, for just feeling so insanely eldritch. And also, that arc is one of my big faves for just having Nero in it. Like, like having, her backstory, realizing who she really is, like being able to finally pull the trigger on, all the speculation over like what's going on with this tiny little bird. Is this anything? Are we just going insane? See, I don't think I can actually put Black Clover in like S tier. I might be able to put an A tier. It's somewhere around Akane-banashi, I think. Like, even though it is a battle series, even though it has a lot of things that are very, on the face of it, extremely exciting, I do think it feels very similar to Akane-banashi in that, like, every chapter is just generally very solid, but that means that the ones that really, really, really wow me are, like, kind of few and far between. So yeah, you know what, I'll keep it as a B. After that, we've got Blue Box. I don't know if I can say I did read some Blue Box this year. Like, I read, let's see. Like, whatever chapter we're on here is definitely the one I definitely read this one. Right. This was, shoot, what is her name? Yumika, that was right. Yeah, because we ended it here. And yeah. So yeah, we had the whole Yumika arc, Yumika coming back to basketball, and also like Taiki around chapter 100 finally confessing to Chinatsu, both of which I thought were quite well done. But around after he did the big confession, I read like one chapter after that, and then, just for like various life reasons, I dropped off. I think that was around when I was getting like really sick in the late summer. So yeah, I do want to catch up, but I don't think I can, like, honestly, say I've read enough Blue Box to properly rank it. I'll put it in haven't read. And then I think for the series that I read a bit of, I'll do the canonical poll, and then maybe I'll move those around in terms of like, how much did I enjoy those things though? Like, what is the most ranked version of the list? Anyways, Cipher Academy, similarly, I'm gonna have to put it in haven't read. I read like a chapter or two this year, but very, very little. Not enough to like properly rank. After that is that Do Retry? Yeah, it's gotta be Do Retry. Do Retry did in fact start this year. So, that gives us the entire series to work with. I actually stopped reading at chapter 15, so I can't properly, like... See, this is where the waffly part comes in. Because for these series, like, I think I've read 15 chapters of Blue Box this year, but, because there's so many more chapters, I don't think it's fair for me to try and rank it and to say, like, I have a strong opinion on how good Blue Box was this year. Well, I guess it is, like, it is subjective, so whatever. Yeah, I'll still, like, do the haven't reads, and I'll do what I said before. So, I do think Do Retry, because of the amount I read, I can put it somewhere. I would give it a solid D, I think. Like, I do think Do Retry is one of the ones that I look back on with my current system of, if it's not gripping me, I'll leave it and then I'll come back to it later. If it's, if it happens to like really, really grip me. Do Retry has some things that did genuinely grip me. Even with my current methodology, I think I would keep going for one more chapter for a fair bit. It just didn't quite click. That's really, really, really the problem. Like, the Bone Collection mangaka, like, I do think they did a good job with the series. I think they were, like, they had a strong idea in their head, and they were able to put out, like, as far as I saw, they were able to make it come to life. It's not an idea that I think was extremely compelling to me. Whereas, like, Tokyo Demon Bride story is similarly, like, it's one of the only series I've ever read where the one-shot and the chapter 1 are almost beat for beat precisely the same. Like, it's so very clear. Like, that series also had a very clear internal vision, but then once we kind of got to the end of that vision, it stopped being very compelling. Like, we got all the girls that were in that initial color page in chapter 1. We, we wrapped up the big arc with our main character, and then... Actually, no. I'm thinking of a different series. No, I'm right. What I'm saying describes another series that I'm going to get to later in this video, but it also describes Bone Collection. Like, yeah, Bone Collection also is definitely a real, like, there's a lot you could do, there's a lot of directions you could go in, but once we fully cemented what we were doing, I just don't think it was, like, it worked for me, but I can understand why it didn't work for a lot of other people. So I think D is fine. Perfectly serviceable as a mangaka. It's just, I think they do just need a little more experience, and then they'll be able to create a series that manages to like execute perfectly well. Elusive Samurai this year. Now this is one I gotta actually check the chapters. I gotta really remember what happened this year specifically. So this is debate 1335. Was this pre-time skip? Right, this is Tokiyuki fighting Tadayoshi trying to take back Kamakura. So oh my god. Yeah, oh, this is the chapter where he did the big talk down. The big like, listen, yeah, you are brainwashed. You don't know what's going on. Yeah, anyone working under a child should just go home. Oh my god, this panel was so good. But yeah, so we had the entire post-time skip is really all I need to think about. Because the entire post-time skip of Elusive Samurai has been insanely good. Just the execution is unbelievably good. This year we got to see Ashikaga Takuji fold a man in half. We got to see the entire faction of the Ashikaga army, where we've got like the super strong guy who couldn't even lift the axe, and then the commander who could lift the axe, and then the commander's dad, who is the most chaddest Chad in the universe, who wields a sword 10 times as heavy as that axe with one hand. I mean, we had, of course, Tokiyuki's rival, truly, whose name I can't bring to mind right now immediately, but the last of the Hisashiban. Like, we had some true banger arcs. We were able to allow Yasue to fade into the obscurity of time. Oh my god, like honestly, this may have been an S tier year for Elusive Samurai, even if the chapters themselves haven't managed to make it to S tier. I'll put it at S right now. I might lower it to A, depending on if we have like a couple of S tier series and I'm able to like gauge them a bit better, it might slide down. But right now, I'm willing to give it an S. We introduced one of the cutest boys in all of the Shonen Jump history. We turned Tokiyuki also into one of the cutest boys in Shonen Jump history. He got a new design that is somehow even better than his old design, which is already extremely good. We had an entire chapter in which his various allies are attempting to figure out okay, which one of us are we both gonna become concubines or what? Oh, so many shenanigans, so many oh my god, genuinely his the person who has protected him all this time committed suicide in order to in order to give him a second chance, in order to permit the entire concept of the time skip. So many big moments happened this year. Incredible. And speaking of incredible, Fabricant 100, where was that? Okay, so yeah, Fabricant had actually been starting. Oh my god, right. Yes, chapter 5 is where I started to love Fabricants. So really, this is the perfect segment of Fabricants. I don't have to really exclude much, because chapters 1 to 4, fine. I enjoyed them well enough. Chapter 5 was the one that recontextualized 1 to 4, that made me understand that, oh yeah, 100 is truly inhuman. I still think about this panel, even the very slight smile you can see, the idea, the intent of making it clear, whatever we show to you cannot make you understand what she is like. We just have to keep a distance. It has that very that sort of found footage horror energy of what we can show you. We can only show you scraps and fragments of this thing, because if we were to show you the whole thing, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be scary. But also, this creates an artifice in which we can actually exclude you from being able to see the full thing in a way that makes sense, that isn't extremely insanely contrived. It's an actual part of you buying into the story. Every chapter after this point it was so engaging, because even if the mangaka didn't do a single thing to make you question 100, you just understood. You looked at her being completely nice, and you just had to remember, right, all of this is bullshit. Literally all of this is an extremely cold, calculated ploy to add in just enough sex appeal and just enough kindness and just enough love in order to keep him at peak physical health, to keep his blood and his brain and all that at peak workingness. it's a series I really, really thought was going to survive. And like it survived longer than a lot of people expected, but even so, I really thought it was going to go further and further and further, and it didn't quite manage to pull it off. I do think the ending is like very memorable. I do think like, I'm glad the mangaka actually tried to like come to an answer for like, the meaning of life. Like it paid off very, very well in my eyes. It wasn't perfect. A lot of the flaws that started at, they were there at the start, stayed all the way to the very end. But like for what it brought to the table, I constantly, constantly, constantly really enjoyed the series. I cannot lie. I can't like, give it demeanor points for what the fuck are demeanor points? What am I trying to say? Demerit points. I can't give it demerits, for anything else. I genuinely really, really liked the ride. I really enjoyed like reading it every single week, even when, the brother and sister I was about, but even their story I was completely fine with. I might slide into B, but it could also be an A. I think I might put it at an A. Like, everything we got this year, I thought was extremely, extremely solid. Then Ginka and Luna, actually, I think I would put in at like a C. Ginka and Luna is, like, whereas Fabricant was something where it was just always vibing with me, Ginka and Luna is something where I really wanted to love it. And I didn't, sadly. Like, it's a very unique kind of series, where we, like, cut in there. Yeah, it wasn't a lot. Like, there was a whole lot this year. And this, I think, like, once we got to the guild, I was already kind of, like, waning. I might actually lower it to a D. Because, yeah, the ending is also something where, like, I appreciate the arc the mangaka had in mind, but I do think it was way too rushed. In the sense that, like, in order to like make it all work as its own thing, I think we should have like cut it off like before the final arc. I think we could have ended it with a Ginka and Luna ended. Why am I talking around this? Like, the whole memory thing. That I think was a really, really cool idea, but I just do not think it makes a whole lot of sense in the allotment of time they had. But I do have to respect that in a sense. It's very similar to the Hunters Guild Red Hood, which also has a very clear, like, this is a really good story line that an entire traditional shonen series could use as, like, a really good buttoning up, a really good endpoint. And we haven't done all the stories that would make this really hit, so we have to just, end it right here as a real, like, I do have to respect Ginka and Luna for, like, being its own thing, for being so over the top and energetic. And it's one of two series this year that were very, like, taking, like, very northern, very Norse imagery, very, like, runic imagery. Ginka and Luna was more like Ainu, but, I live in Canada. I like the ice and snow. It was a series I was really, really enjoying just aesthetically. It's very, very striking and very, like, different. Yeah, I do think the ongoing storylines didn't quite hit. It was a real, I can see what you're doing, but it's not getting me. I wish I could like it more than I liked it. See, I think D is fine. After that is Green Green Greens. I'm caught up as of chapter 5. So I should be able to rank it quite nicely. I only dropped it because I wasn't, like, I'm enjoying it, but it's one where it's like, I'll let it cook. But I have read everything that is currently out, so I'm very, very qualified to rank this one. Ooh, if D is the I can see what you're trying to do rank, I think I have to put it at D, actually. Because, yeah, like, that's how I'm feeling about it. I can see what they're doing. There's one thing in particular that, like, they were able to sell me on. Before, I was thinking it was a misstep. As of the most recent chapter, I understand what they were trying to do with Haku, like, like, backsliding in terms of his skill. It's perfectly fine. And I really, really do like his relationship with Nadeshko. Why can't I say Nadeshko? Like, it's all really well built. But it's a real, like, I want to like it more than I like it. I can say that for D Retry as well. So I think that is, like, the official phrase for a D rank. It's going to be either I want to like it or I just don't like it. But yeah, that's really that. Like, I like Haku as a concept. That, like, the bones of it are fine. It just doesn't have that spark to me. It is not hitting me the way that Robot Laser Beam hit me. in that, it was able to immediately engage me. It was able to immediately make me go like, you know what? I'm actually really into this, even though I wasn't at the time a big fan of golf. Now I'm more into golf, actually. Like, now I do find it more interesting. And it's been actually very cool, like, looking up comments from, like, actual golfers about the series and seeing that, okay, like, visually, the mangaka knows what they're doing. Like, all the stances and all that do tell you a lot about the characters, and, like, it's all very accurate. It makes, like, logical sense, like, in terms of physics and all that. Like, it's all working out. It's just, it doesn't quite hit for me. So yeah, Easy D. After that, High School Family. It's really, really hard to remember what the hell ever happened in any chapter of High School Family. This is the first this is the first series where I'm having this problem. And to be fair, it's because it's a gag series. It's a bit tough. Plus, I was kind of spotty when it came to High School Family. Like, I would read a bunch, then stop, then read a bunch, then stop. It was that kind of series. And so, like, flicking through it a bit, it was okay. Like, this bit. Like, was this the year where they did the high school sleep-in? That's the one thing I remember, like, it being, like, somewhat late game that really got me. But actually, no. Right. This is also, like, a very small sliver of the series. So yeah, I just remember really not being that into it. It's okay, but that's really it. It was just okay. It might be a C again, or a D. Oh no, D tiers are already piling up. But yeah, disappointing ending, especially to a series I really, I didn't adore it, but it served its purpose as a gag series. Gag series definitely have that layer of, even if you don't love it, it's nice for it to be there, right? It balances out the individual magazines. So yeah, rip High School Family. He deserved better. After that, speaking of deserved better, Icehead Gill. Gill, I'm going to put firmly in like B tier, actually. I really liked Gill. I wish it, had more time to flex. The concepts were all very good, and I do think, the mangaka, I'm glad the mangaka got, like, a little more time than I expected in order to, like, wrap up the arc. Or to wrap up the saga, actually. Because, yeah, like, it's very clearly rushed at the end. It's very clear, like, yeah, we're supposed to really, like, have more breathing room here. In fact, I don't even know if, the whole, like, Book of Life thing or Book of Knowledge thing was supposed to work out the way it actually did. That also definitely felt like a real, like, how do I give one of our characters a big power-up before the very end? Same with, like, the elemental weapons being certain characters' elemental weapons. That felt like a real, like, we could have, had these be, like, things that are, like, in very different areas in order to slowly pull them together for the final fights. But, with what we have right now, what if our main cast, if we had all of them, and then we're good? But I really enjoyed Gill as a main character. I do think, like, everything about the series is built really well. I love the idea of him, like, going from place to place. I even liked him, I'm not usually a big fan of our main character actually having, like, being royalty or having a very clear, like, super important lineage. But I think for Gill, it made a lot of sense. Like, we front-loaded that his dad was extremely important. And after that point, it was this question of, like, how does he, get to his dad's level? But even so, I'll remember the axe spinning attacks. They're such a cool concept. I can remember the stages better than I can remember the goddamn, like, attacks that Luffy came up with for his, techniques. Like, they make sense to me in terms of, like, staging upwards from, like, Weasel to Boar to... was it Bear after that? Like, there's a vague logic to it up to hero hunting. Like, all of them, it works. I do think writing a series about a guy who uses axes is extremely powerful in Jump. I'll never forget it in the same way that I'll never forget, Chainsaw Man managing to defeat the axe. I just really, really, really enjoyed Gill. It wasn't a 10 out of 10. I didn't have the same fiery passion for it that I had for, like, Fabricant, but I still really, really liked it. Oh, last thing. Like, just of all the aesthetic things I really liked. I loved the eternal winter. I loved, like, doing the Viking stuff, but having it, like, be very, like, fantasy, being very of its own world, having, like, the camp of cannibals that hunt each other in the forest, and then the badass who was able to kill all of them, and then having him level, like, be taken over by a lich, then leveled up all of his powers unfairly. Just every concept in the series got me so extremely excited. Realizing why Icehead Gill was named Icehead Gill was so fucking cool. Genuinely, the difference between like a D tier series or even a C tier and something like like a canceled B tier series is that I'll still be thinking about Icehead Gill like a year from now and a year after that. It'll still be in my canon of series I'm thinking about when I'm like reaching back for examples of like like cool attack names or cool concepts or whatnot. Like same with Fabricant. I'll definitely still be thinking about it in the way I still think about Bone Collection. Genuinely. I think Ichigoki's gotta be a C. Because like Ichigoki, I can't say is a great series. I did drop it, and I undropped it for like one chapter in the middle because it was insane. I caught back up the series because it was insane. I finished it because it was insane. Like it does what I love about Roboco, but even more nuts. And I do think that's a fair way to lean. Like whenever the series tried to like, get a little more sentimental or get a little more like, coherent, it didn't quite work for me. There was a lot of stuff that, felt a bit half-baked. But whenever it really, really, really went out there, like, I do think it succeeded. Every single time I was able to, like, how do I put it? Just even chapter 1 with the whole bear attack and with Ichigoki being killed by a bear. It made me lose my goddamn mind. The mangaka knows how to write for a gag series. Like, I would love to see them, try another gag series again, but, like, if not, I would love to also see them, like, work at, like, a sketch show or something, go to, like, crap, what is the company that does documental and, the Gaki no Sky and all that? Is it Yoshitoki? But, like, I would love to see them just, like, in a writer's room for a comedy, because I do think their energy is extremely, extremely good. Or, even if it was like a manga situation, but they're just like the ones spitballing or coming up with concepts, or even like, Ichigoki really does have a spirit to it. It's not a series that I necessarily really was invested in or that I wanted to succeed like a D tier series, but it's a series that wormed its way into my heart no matter how hard I tried to push it away. No matter how much a heart dewormer I consumed, I was not able to get Ichigoki out. I will definitely still be thinking about it. Now, the Ichinose family's deadly sins. Where did this, Also, I probably should have, like, chapter 6, it's most of Ichigoki that we're covering, so it's fine, it's fine. I didn't, like, check to specify, but it's fine. So, Ichinose family was, it was the Shiori arc. That was so long ago. It's insane that, like, most of Ichinose happened, like, after this point, but also, like, I do think aesthetically, early Ichinose is very different in feeling. Like, it's many, many twists behind, of course. Like, we're many layers away. There's much speculation from my end of, like, how deep into the dream are we? What the fuck are the rules? This was still in the, like, globule era, where like almost every chapter had like some sort of like well-drawn globule situation. Like I liked this early part and like the earlier part, like the pre this well enough, but I do think after this point is where it hit its stride. Like I do think once False Kakeru showed up, I think is really where I started to fall in love with the series. Not like here I liked it in a very like this is interesting, but having come off of Takapi's original sin, it feels like I understand what the logic is gonna be. And if there's one thing I have to genuinely, really, really, really praise Ichinose for, it is that it's so twisty and expectation breaky without breaking the core concept. And that is something that you can fight me on this one. I understand, but I do think like genuinely. There are no twists in the series where I go back and I go, this was just a twist for the sake of like nothing. Like this is a twist that doesn't make any damn sense. Even the most abstract ones, I think, do make a layer of sense. Like, not even in a, like, there's a reach here. I think everything just straight up makes sense in the series. Like, it is not a series where I feel like the mangaka was just changing things for the sake of changing things, and at the very end going, by the way, here's how it all fits together. I was able to figure something out. It's a series where I do feel like the mangaka had, like, a concept in mind, and then added twisted that initial concept without like losing sight of the actual like the final like layer. And even though I don't think the ending of the series is the intended original ending, like, it definitely feels like a you're getting canned ending. Like, despite that, I do think genuinely we were like, what, a volume away maybe from the true ending? That's really it. Like, I do think we got, like, we got big arcs for everyone. We're able to get through a lot of stuff, but at the same time, because it is so well structured of a series, like, it's something where I do think the mangaka could not have, like, sprinted to the intentional ending. I do think it's a situation, much like another series we're going to talk about, PPP, where, like, if the series is being canned, you gotta just, like, have it be a bad ending. But even that, I think, is, it is very bold. And I do think, like, a bad ending, like the very end, I think is totally fine if everything leading up to it is good. And I do think that is the case for Ichinose. Like, I do like how we went through each person's sins. I do like that, like, in my final chapter reaction, I tried to come up with what I thought all their sins were. And I came to the conclusion that every single one of them has a different sin than what you would expect from, like, the first half of the series. Like, even this bit, like, you would assume Shiori's lust because of, the older guy she's dating, and because of, like, all the bunnies in her room and whatnot. Whereas I think I ended with her on greed? Was that it? But yeah, like, it was that idea of, like, what she wants isn't, like, it isn't this, like, burgeoning, like, a sexual energy. It's not, like, even, like, a, like, not a, like, a carnal feeling or, like, a hot-headed, I'm gonna, just do whatever the hell I want feeling, but it was more of a, like, a self-preservation energy, a, like, I don't remember exactly which sin I assigned her, but I think that was also very interesting, because I do think by the end of the series, like, all the true sins of the family are very different from what you would initially expect, while at the same time, it doesn't feel broken. I do feel like it just makes sense, they're all multifaceted. And yeah, like, I do think the family itself is just extremely, like, how do I put it? Like, I do love Tsubasa for being the kind of the main character that I just scream about because I'm looking at him and going, what the fuck is wrong with you half the time? But that also, he is the engine that moves the story forward in a way that, still makes everyone in universe go, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's so extremely fun to watch every single time. But yeah, the art is really strong. The writing, I think, is, like, really, really well done. The feeling of the series is unlike anything else in Jump. It truly is a, like, I wouldn't say it's even that Jump-like, but I would say it's, like, it doesn't not fit. Like, it manages to, like, be very appealing because it is so very different from everything else, while still, like, like, without just feeling it should be running in an entirely different magazine. It still, I think, does have, that optimism within Tsubasa, while still, like, critiquing it. It's very Chainsaw Man in that regard. Do I put this in A tier or B tier? Because it's around here. I would say the very end let me down, but even then, like, up to the, the bit right before the final chapter, the penultimate chapter, I was hooting and hollering. I was going, God damn, I love Ichinose. So you know what? I'm putting it in A. It did almost everything it wanted to, as well as I could have hoped. And even the stuff that I personally wasn't a super big fan of, or the stuff where I was like, well, we could have let this cook a little more. It was still, I think, totally fine. It was still something where I looked at it and I went, you know what? I'm happy with this. So yeah, right in A. This is an insane ranking thus far. Jujutsu Kaisen, straight up haven't read. Straight up. Haven't read anything this year. And since the me and Roboco mangaka has been told to do fewer parodies and to spoil things less, I don't know how much more Jujutsu Kaisen I'm going to be able to, like, pick up from the, from the ether. I know about, like, 2 big things I think happened this year. But if I start trying to rank things by things I vaguely have heard about through the ether, this ranking is going to go completely goddamn insane. After that is Kagurabachi. That would be all of Kagurabachi right now, but I've only... Yeah, I dropped it at chapter 4. What was chapter 4? I may have read Did I read the chapter after this? I think, yeah, it was here. Because, yeah, Chihiro asks about Cloud Gouger, and I don't think I ever saw Cloud Gouger. And I assume we're probably going to do a big fight with the person who uses Cloud Gouger. But yeah, this was... it might be a C, it might be a D. It could also go into the haven't read, but I've... like, yeah, it probably should go into haven't read, and then I'll do a second round, but I'm going to put it in C. It's a real, I can see what you're trying to do kind of series, but it hit more than it didn't. Like, if it was a B, I would keep it in. I do think, like, B and up is my, like, I should be reading this on the channel. Like, do you retry? I probably should not have read for as long as I did. Green Greens, when you're in it, there's always the, like, ambiguity of, like, should I, shouldn't I? Let's see how it goes. Let's do one more. Being up, I think, is perfectly fair for like, putting in the reactions. And yeah, like, Kagurabachi's right here. I really like the very cinematic feel of some of the, panels. I do think, like, the concept is really, really good. I like having the swords as a clear, like, these are very special. This is why, our main character is very attached to them. This is, he has a place in this world and no one else does. There's a lot of potential for, like, potentially being able to reforge his sword or, like, revealing a secret sword far in the future or something like that. Oh, yeah, there's a lot there, but it just couldn't quite click with me. And we'll see. Like, from what I've heard, like, it seems like it's been a pretty, like, clean switch over from all the Kagurabachi memes to people genuinely liking Kagurabachi. Like, there are plenty of people who have just, like, stopped talking about it once it stopped being a meme. But I do think the people that have continued to read it are not reading it out of, like, obligation or just by saying, it's okay. Like, I've heard genuinely just good things about it. So yeah, I think that's fair. After that, Kill Blue. Kill Blue, I think, has got to be a D. Did I read up to chapter 27? Or did I just click on it? I don't remember. There's no goddamn way I read up to chapter 27. There's no way. I must have just clicked on it at some point. I had to have stopped around, like, the mid-10s, right? There's no way. 0% chance. I mean, there's no way. There's no way. But yeah, Kill Blue didn't really get me very much. Fujimaki-sensei, I hope you're enjoying yourself. I hope you're having a good time. Really did not hit. It is pretty damn unique in Jump. Like, this does seem to be the era where, like, Jump was steering very clear of, like, the modern zeitgeist of, like, reincarnation slash, like Another World series. And we still haven't gotten a straight up, this is just a, like, modern definition isekai with, like, video game rules and all that. But, like, Kill Blue is, very much a, like, I guess it's more of a Detective Conan than anything else. But, it definitely is part of that, like, what if you had a second chance? What if, you just couldn't appreciate school at the time, but now you can because you're older? What if you could, like, take advantage of your youth on, like, actual kids? Yeah, I could not. I gave it a fair shot, I think, and just, it would not click with me. It's just not the kind of thing I find that appealing. It really does have that, like, almost Mushoku Tensei energy to me of, like, I look at it and I'm like, you know what, I can't, it's not like I don't understand why people think this is really good. It does not do for me what it does for a lot of other people, so leave it right there. After that is Mama Yu Yu, which is also the whole series. Similarly, I only read up to chapter 8? Again, October. Did I read up to chapter 8? That's so far. There's no way. I must have just clicked on it. Because to be fair, like, if it's just on the screen and I click on, like, if I'm clicking on the, like, the top part, it'll take me here. If I click on the bottom part, it'll take me to the chapter. So some of these are, like, fucked up. I couldn't have gotten to chapter 8. What was chapter 7? Let me just take a quick peek. Yeah, that does not look like familiar at all. It's like, where did I leave off? Was it chapter 5? I think it was chapter 5. But yeah, it's a solid D. It's a solid D. Mama Yu Yu is the definition of I can see what you're trying to do, but I'm not into it. Because yeah, like, the world is interesting enough. The idea of, like, really diving into the hero demon lord dynamic, I think is cool enough. It just really was not clicking. Conversely, Mashle of all things. Mashle, I think, was clicking in a way I never really expected. Where the hell was 139? Oh my god, this is so deep in. This is before Mash dies and, like, goes to talk with God, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember this now. Or rather, yeah, I remember the previous points. And then, Mash passes out. He goes, he dies and all that. Yeah. The end game of Mashle, I thought, was pretty darn good. Not a 10 out of 10. Again, a solid C, ranging to B. Like, it had the like, if I really felt like it, I probably could have tossed it onto the stream. Like, it was I can't. No, no, no. It's a C. It's a C. It's a C. Because, right. The problem really is nothing goddamn happened in half the chapters. That's the real problem. Like, you gotta be a really good series for me to accept the classic, we're just tossing Luffy around for 5 minutes. And I don't think Mashle was, like, strong enough to do that. When Mash was gone, we got to have some extra power-ups, we got to see some of the other Divine Visionaries, like, stand up to Innocent Zero. It was alright. But I truly was just sitting there going, when's Mash getting back up? Like, it felt very like, we need to do this. We need to give everyone their moments. And, for some of them, I really enjoyed it. For others, I didn't quite. But it felt very obligatory. And that's not what should be happening. Like, in Wano, like, cutting to One Piece for a tiny little bit. Wano had a bunch of obligatory stuff. Even it, like, overstayed its welcome at certain times. But, like, within, a chapter or so, we would move to something else where I could go, you know what, this is pretty damn good. Even if I'm not, like, insanely invested in this, I do like this plotline way more. I think Mashle has to be, like, C, even at its pinnacle at the very end. The D chapters drag it down, the B chapters drag it up. There's, like, one or two, like, S tier chapters in there, vaguely, but even then, I think it all balances out. I don't think it quite makes it to a B. Then Me and Roboco, chapter 120. Me and Roboco is going to be very interesting considering that, like, yeah, it's going to be either a New Year's chapter or the chapter right after a New Year's chapter. Because, yeah, we did go from a New Year's chapter at the start of the year to a New Year's chapter at the end of the year. Oh, the Roboco Hyaku Ninishu. But yeah, we had the Roboco Ichi Grand Prix. We had the culmination of the second year storyline up to this point. We had the the Order Made takeover. We had the multiverse saga. Like, there was plenty of great stuff. We got Gorilla's like story with his father and how he wants to beat him and surpass him so that his dad will stop traveling the world. Like, there was plenty in Roboco this year that I really enjoyed. I might move it to it. It's either an S or an A. Honestly, I'll put it at an A. Again, we'll see. We'll see if it manages to creep up to S. I think it might. I don't know if it beat everything in Jump this year. Like, if we had any chapters that were at the very, very, very top off the top of my head. But if it would have done it any year, I think it would have done it this year. Because, yeah, the year before we had, like, the big assassin battle and all that, which was fine. But this may have been an S tier year of Roboco. I'll keep it at A for now. We'll make our final adjustments in a bit. Martial Master Asumi. So this is just the whole series. This makes it very, very easy to rank. It's an S. I do think this year Martial Master Asumi has been an S rank. Like, it's got some, detractions, but I mean, every series does. But in terms of doing everything it has set out to do, it's been killing it. And I do think this is one where, like, if we had a bit of a split, if chapter 1 came out in, like, the 2022 and the rest came out in 2023, I'd be a bit iffy. But I think it is the full package this year that makes it incredible. We got to get the Dark Asumi thing, and then we got to also, like, resolve it, like, within 20 chapters. Or not resolve it, but, like, dip back into it. Make it clear that's not just, a single chapter thing, that is a thing we're getting to, but, there's a lot more to him. That he isn't just being driven by his darkness. That he is, genuinely, someone who loves MMA, who is, appreciating it for what it is, who, has a different relationship with his family style than he does from, like, MMA as a whole, as a new thing he is entering. It's a really, really cool dynamic. Like, I'm also really glad that he gets to be, like, an interesting, like, middle ground between your classic person who knows nothing, who then enters the world of the series and then, like, slowly gets better and better and better, and someone who is a veteran. Like, he is a bit of both. He is someone who has the skills of a veteran, but doesn't really like them very much. It is very, like, Robot Laser Beam. Like, with that was Robo, like, having one move because he doesn't even play golf. He just likes to do this thing on the side while he's waiting for his dad. Similarly, Asumi is someone who loves his family, who wants to take care of his grandpa, who, has a lot of guilt about that. And so as a result, like, he went from obligatory training to, like, intentionally training with him, but still with this layer of, I'm not doing this because I like it, I'm doing it because I gotta. It's a tricky thing to do. Like, I do think it does much better than Greens in having a main character with, flaws that I know he's going to get over and flaws that I'm not a super big fan of, but, flaws that are still very textured. I think the difference is I like Haku more as a character in Greens. Even his bad parts are more fun to me than Asumi's bad parts, which just feel kind of incongruous. They are like the one thing in the series that makes me go, I don't really buy this. This feels weird. Like, even if we, when we do explain why he is the strange mixed bag of a person, it still feels weird. It doesn't feel quite right. It's like, that's really my only detriment. But even with that, like, in the same way that there's stuff in like Elusive Samurai that doesn't 100% hit all the time. But I do think like Asumi's an S. Right now, of all the series that started in 2023, like, Asumi is the one that I think has the potential to be, the next big long runner. That could be the next Black Clover or whatnot. Like, it has those bones to it. Yeah, easy S. I am extremely, extremely excited to see it for, next year and the year after that and the year after that. And, we'll see next year. Like, next year, I think it's going to be more tough because like, everything about it was really damn good this year, but also that does mean, like once you're out of the frying pan, once you're like in a very consistent, ongoing, you got time serialization, you always have the potential to drop off. And so we'll see if it manages to be S ranked again next year. I'm really hoping so. Fingers crossed. Now, My Hero Academia. I don't know where we've started this year. Okay. Of course, with most of these, due to the way Jump works, it'll save wherever I last was. So, yeah, so it was here. It was, like, the big explosion. It was the, like, Shigaraki being trapped in this area, Shigaraki fighting Deku, having to get rid of him. So, constantly erasing his powers, trying to keep this thing up. So, from there, we had the Dabi fight, obviously. We had the Toga fight. We, of course, had the Bakugo resurrection. Bakugo, Edgeshot turned himself into a heart. It was the funniest shit I've ever seen. That was extremely memorable. Oh yes, right. Yeah, we had, of course, the I forgot this was this year. We had the Gigantomachia fight. We had, of course, All for One versus All Might. That was also so big this year. And like specifically the way we did it, like, having All Might use like, a tech suit, having this tech suit have, like abilities that correspond to the quirks of every single person in the class. It was so insanely cool. Like, that, I think, was the highlight fight of the entire year to me. Like, it was just incredibly cool. But, I mean, this was a packed year. Like, even with, Horikoshi having to take breaks, so much happened this year. It really is, like, I am truly stunned by how much, like, ground he was able to cover this year. And yeah, like, definitely a better year than 2022, which was a little more iffy for me in terms of, like, quality. Like, I was still very into it. But I do think this year had a lot of, like, great conclusions. Whereas 2022, by the very nature of it, had a lot of setting up for, this whole arc. I suppose that's also, like, something to say for it. Like, looking at some of the... I guess a lot of these are done, though. But, like, a long-running series being a C or a D is also not necessarily the worst if it is, like, setting up for something else. Like, a B is rough in a way because it is the most stable position. Like, even if Akane-banashi does some incredibly good arcs next year, I feel like it's gonna end up settling down to a B just due to the way the series works. And it's something I do like. I do like the series. But, it's the kind of series where, once you combine the setup and the payoff and the middle parts, it all, like, averages down to a B. It's kind of what I thought about with the Promised Neverland, in that I really like the Promised Neverland. But, like, for me personally, a lot of the arcs, even Goldie Pond, even, like, the first arc I think would actually probably be an S. But for most of the other arcs, even if I'm very into them, I feel like they average out to a B just due to the way they're told and the way, like, I experience them. Anyways, that is to say that, like, it's fine bringing that up in the My Hero thing, because I don't think My Hero was at all a B this year. I think it was an A. I don't think it was an S. It's tough. It's tough, actually. I might move it to an S. Because, yeah, like, the Dobby conclusion is the one thing I didn't really like that much. Like, I thought it was way too stretched out. I understand why it was done the way it was. But, that's a real D tier concept. But I think everything else, the All Might conclusion, the Makia fight, the All for One stuff, Bakugo versus All for One, like that, the year managing to just barely wrap that up. Like, all of that was peak, peak, peak. Yeah, this was a great year for my hero. Yeah, fingers crossed that, like, Horikoshi, based on, like, the way they were talking about it. Like, I didn't think it was going to end this year. I do think it's probably going to end next year. It really depends on, like, how many breaks he has to take. 'Cause obviously, he's not, like, including breaks is like a thing he's trying to do because he's trying not to do breaks. Like, even assuming we're gonna have to take some breaks, and I hope he does, I do think we could probably finish out the series in the next year, and I really hope it's not rushed. Like, it's because I think we could comfortably finish it out next year that I don't want it to be rushed. Like, give it the time it needs. Let us do a full on, like, like, we need a chapter for every single, like, one of Deku's quirks entering like, Shigaraki's body. Let it happen. Let him cook. Like, at this point, it would really suck if we had like a siren ending, where most of the series was done correctly, and then at the very end, we really, really, really rushed it. Like, My Hero is a series where even when it's done, I feel like it's gonna stick around, Like, Dr. Stone isn't on here because, like, it was technically a spin-off that ran for 3 chapters, but I think My Hero is gonna have the same kind of staying power as Dr. Stone, where I think for sure, if Horikoshi wants to run a chapter, he can definitely run a chapter. If he, authorizes someone to do another spin-off that isn't, like, just team-ups, I think we could absolutely see, a space for that. And so it would kind of suck if we rushed it and then after that, tried to make up for the rushing with extra stuff. Like, Naruto did that a little bit. And not to say that the ending was rushed, but in the sense that, like, the ending was not exactly perfect. And so a lot of, like, the post-series content has been, like, trying to flesh it out, trying to, like, through, like, novels and through Boruto and whatnot, trying to, like, make you care more about concepts introduced in that final arc, or trying to, like, make it all cooler, or giving, like, other characters screen time where they kind of weren't able to get screen time in that arc. Yeah, I guess that's all I want to say. It doesn't really, like, change the ranking here with My Hero. If My Hero can end next year with the same quality of chapters that we had this year, bumps and all, it'll probably still be an S at the end. That's as high a praise as I could give it. After that, we've got Nue's Exorcist, which I think I've got to put in the haven't read category. Because, like, I have read it, but I have, like, right now it is at chapter 32. Did I really drop it to 3? Again, incredible friend of the channel, GomuGomuFun, has a spreadsheet where you can check what I'm saying. Like, I'm not checking the spreadsheet myself because I don't want to, like, catch extra data and, like, hedge my bets or change my feelings or whatnot. If you want to know how much of New Age Exorcist I really read, check that spreadsheet. It's going to be linked down below. It is an extremely good resource. It's incredible. Thank you, Gamu, for making that. But yeah, like, from where I dropped off, I cannot, like, in good conscience, like, rank this. Just for a sense of, like, I haven't read the vast majority of it. So I'll slap it down here. We'll see. Like, New Age is also definitely in that category of, if people really, really, really like it, then, I'll check it out. But if not, it's also that middle ground of, if people aren't super into it, but I might be into it, I could always just read it myself and see how it feels. Anyways, with that, we of course have One Piece. Incredible year for One Piece. Like, we got the live action. The live action was good. Like, I was hoping it was going to be good, but I'm not going to lie. I was like 50-50 on it. Like, 50% of me was going, like, I genuinely do think, it could be pretty damn good. I was, like, pacing it out myself in my head, trying to figure out, like, how would I, ration this? What would I keep in? What would I take out? And, it's not a perfect series. It's not a perfect live action adaptation, but it's pretty damn good. It's the kind of thing where I watch and I go, I could see this continuing on for the whole series. I could see this being, like, I want to see a season 2. And after that, if it's as good as this season, I hope it's better. I hope it improves every single season. But even if it's equally as good as season 1, I would still want a season 3. But talking about the manga itself, Like, I'm just bringing that up because that was really big. Of course, Film Red was last year, or, the year before 2023. I saw it in 2023, so I'm a little biased there. Oh, the hero deploys. But yeah, this was crazy. Like, yeah, this year is so weird to think of for One Piece. Because, like, in terms of what the Straw Hats did, not that much, you know? Like, this has been a year where all the cool stuff has been, like, all the other stuff going on. Like, we saw Garp fighting, we saw Kobe, do an insane punch. Like, this is the year where I finally decide, like, from the start of the series, from chapter, well, yeah, it wasn't the anime, or in the manga, right? Chapter 1. Or no, it was chapter 2 in the, whatever. When we first saw Kobe, when Kobe finally, made his declaration of like, if you're going to be the king of the pirates, I'm going to become the greatest marine. Like, from that moment, I really thought, okay, he's going to be, like, not the final boss of the series, but he's going to be like one of the final, like, things, like things, beings, people that Luffy will have to fight. Even if it's not a genuine, I need to kill you or I need to take you in, he has to be like, we need to see him as like, like one of the greatest marines, as someone who is like an actual impediment to Luffy, who either like, lets him go by, but it's a very clear, like, don't make any trouble or I'm gonna have to come after you, or a genuine, I'm coming after you, and then we'll have to fight it out. And I never thought we would get to the point where I could see them doing that. Just because, like, we had so little focus on him. But this was the year where I went, you know what? I could see a fight between Kobe and Luffy. And I can't quite see Kobe winning, of course, but I can see it being one hell of a fight. But yeah, we had that. We had, of course, all the egghead stuff. Not that much egghead stuff, but we had, a little egghead stuff. We got the Kizaru fights. We we got the big deflation of people, like, thinking Gear 5th was the strongest thing in the universe. Much like how Luffy during the Macy's Day Parade got popped. Similarly, the Kizaru fight, I think, really made people realize, like, okay, the Admirals are extremely strong. Also, how do I put it? It definitely made me, like, think about it and go, like, oh yeah, right. Kaido did let people beat the crap out of him for, like, a day before he fought Luffy. And he still was, so close to genuinely of his own regard defeating Luffy. Like, Luffy still has a lot to go before he, before I could see him genuinely being on Shanks's level. He's he is one of the warlords now. But, that's just the title. In terms of extreme strength, he is not at the very top of the world yet. But, it's the point he's always been at in the series. He's always getting closer and closer and closer to the top. And I do like that a lot. Like, I'm glad that, the fight with Kizaru showed that, yeah, he's still flawed. He can still be beaten. He can still be tricked. There's a lot left. There's a lot of gas in here. He can't simply go Gear 5 and immediately win every time. And I mean, the biggest thing, truly, rounding out the year, Kuma's flashback, or Bonnie's, like, Bonnie getting all of Kuma's memories and then going through the Kuma flashback. That is the coolest shit in the universe. I mean, also, of course, we had the Five Elders summoning circle. Getting to see one of the Five Elders fight, getting to know one of the Five Elders. But, like, we get a lot of that from Kuma's flashback, which is truly one of the great One Piece arcs. It is up there with, like, like the flashback in, like, Skypiea, or, like, like the Odin flashback in Wano. Like, One Piece is known for its flashbacks. I do think the Kuma flashback is as good as any flashback we have ever seen, and it is, like, at least right now, definitely in my, like, top 5 One Piece, like, like, segments of all time. Like, not including entire giant arcs, but I do think, like, it definitely raises up Egghead as an arc. And even Egghead, it's such a funny thing to consider as an arc because it is so many things, because it is, cutting around the world. It is more, like, pound for pound, it is more cutting around the world than something like Wano, where, like, we had some cutting around the world, but it was during the act breaks. It was, it was a part of the world, but, like, it's something where you could, like, divide it out as its own thing. I'm also just surprised by how much I enjoy the current structure of Egghead. That, that we are cutting around a lot, but when we do cut around, we get something substantial in each place. And even if we do, like, separate from, the full lead stuff and then come back, like, it still feels substantial to me. As opposed to, when I said cutting around before in previous arcs that I didn't like it, I really did mean, like, slicing up the chapters a lot. I appreciate that Oda's not slicing up the chapters that much. and that a lot of the chapters get to be very substantial, very like single-minded. They still push a lot of different things forward. That's through your connections to everyone else, and the fact that we're so far in the series that we understand how everything is connected, and therefore stuff like Garp maybe dying, or you know like like seeing how good of a guy Vegapunk really is, having, like understanding Body's journey and how it it was parallel to Luffy, and seeing like all this stuff that's been happening all this time, being able to put it all in sequence. It's so satisfying. This is why One Piece is truly one of the best series I've ever read. So yeah, I would say this is an S tier year for One Piece. Truly. Like it feels a little crazy saying that, but like I don't know if I would say last year was an S tier year for One Piece. Yeah, like even if last year included like the end of Wano and all that, there's still plenty of stuff there where I was like, well, it feels a little diluted. There's some stuff there in there I didn't really care about that much, even if we did have a lot of like big pinnacle peak awesome moments. Whereas I do think this year has truly been incredible for like the ability to cut around has meant that we've had things that feel like multiple pinnacles in a row that are not also constrained by environments. It's not just like, oh, it was really cool to see, Sanji get a big win and Zoro get a big win and Luffy get a big win. Instead, it's like, let's see Kobe getting a big win. Let's see, it's insane. It's truly insane. Okay. I'm saying the same stuff all over again. Let's move on. Next is, of course, PPP. This is chapter 64, which I don't quite remember. I don't know why, but I remember a little bit. Was this the start of Dad's flashback? Like, how much more of PPP was there between 64 and here? Not a lot. So yeah, I'm gonna have to rank it pretty low, actually. Because, like, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. And I do think I will always love the ending, the final chapter for, the big punch. And yeah, it's just a wild series. But I do think like a lot of the very satisfying stuff in the series is, it's iffy. Like PPP is very much like a full package sort of series. And so a lot of the previous arcs were, like a bit iffy overall. It's kind of the Promised Neverland sensation. I would say it's a little better in the sense that the series is so abstract. It has such an interesting feel to it that even the chapters I'm not super into, I think, can carry me on feeling, on vibe, on energy. And that's something I, couldn't quite get from the very ending, because, like, I don't care that much about Lucky's dad, and we're not supposed to. Like, we do dislike him. And I do think the chapters we got were really good for fleshing out why he is the person he is, and, like, what a strange enigma he is, why he is a fascinating character to follow. And also like, following the, like the inner Lucky and whatnot. It's like all that stuff is very interesting, but it's the kind of thing where, like, as interesting as it is, it can't, like, the fact that it ended up having to kind of just, because it couldn't continue on, it just, it does hurt it. It does hurt it. Even these scant few chapters, I might put at a C. Because yeah, it's a funny thing to rank. Like PPP as a whole, I would rank it like an A. Even having been canned, I would still like recommend it to people. I would still say absolutely read PPP. It's still a great series. It's incredible. Like Apollo 3 is like nobody else who has ever run and jump who I've ever seen. Even the art, like the art is a little janky, but that's part of what makes it very interesting. It's the kind of, thing where it is unmistakable. And like, the mangaka's creativity, the mangaka's, a way of creating new visions and of like making you like, like understand the art with, in a way where you can't hear it. And yet, visually, they're able to communicate it to you. They're able to make you try and understand how insane it is, how weird it is, and yet how like visceral it is. Like, I think it's actually a bit of a benefit to say that, even the scrap of the ending that we have is still something that would not be a D. At the very least, it's a C. At the very least, I would rank it with Mashle. Like, that's a crazy thing to say. But yeah, well, whenever Apollo 3 does something else, you better believe I'll be reading it. Maybe not on the channel, we'll see, but I'll definitely be into it. Like, that's everything. Like, PPP, like, the C is definitely the correct tier for things I could not read on the channel. And even though I really liked PPP, even though I did read it weekly, I still could never, like, I wouldn't have put it back on the stream. I had it on the stream for a bit, but it really is like, it's hard to talk about. It's hard to really, explain why it's good. So yeah, perfect. After that, of course, Sakamoto Days. This, of course, is very dependent on where the heck we were. Oh, right. Oh my god, we were still at the JCC. Oh, this is the Big Toot chapter. Yeah, it's Sakamoto's Big Toot. I will never shut up about this Big Toot. But yeah, Kanaguri, great character. And right after this is, after this, we begin the counterattack on Slur. There's the, how do I put it? The counterattack on Slur, really good. The backstory, most of this year, I think, was the backstory between Sakamoto and, seeing everyone back in the day, seeing the original crew that then got, inducted into the order, seeing the big splits, building up a lot of love for a character that we, barely really knew until that flashback. We'd only heard, hints of her. And then to be so invested in her and then to, see what we saw, going forward. The fact that all hit so insanely well, even though, she was such a small part of the series before that point is, it's something I love. Whenever a series can introduce a new character and make me go, oh, I love this person as much as I would have loved them if they were around for 500 chapters. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Honestly, would I put this as an S tier for the year? I don't think so. I think it's got to be an A. It's close. I think Sakamoto Days, to me, is an A-tier series. I think that's really it. This is as good a year as I could imagine for Sakamoto. Definitely way better than, the first year, where, it was still trying to find its footing. It was still trying to figure out, what it was trying to do. What is the appeal? Do we go more gag? Do we do more, down-to-earth stuff? Do we do the crazier, action stuff? I do think just by the very nature of the series, the art is always really good. The choreography is fantastic. I like, most of the characters. So many of the main, the heroes and villains are all people where I like their gimmick. I like their deal. I find them very fascinating to watch. It's really just, Slur's friends who are the ones where I'm I'm not really feeling them. And I do think that is intentional. We are supposed to be feeling that energy of, we're supposed to feel like, Deerhead Man. Where, he's well, you like me. I've been around for a while, and here are these weirdos who are, we're saying they're very important, but I can't understand them at all. I think I definitely feel like that with them. But, apart from that, I do feel like everything else I really, really, really like. My only downside half the time is just oh, I wish we could, get a little more information and we didn't have to, we could cram a little more into these incredibly rendered pages. I wish we could get a tiny bit more information, but at the same time, I don't want to break it up with needless narration or needless inner monologue or whatnot. I think just, by the very nature of it and the way I interface with the series, it's gotta be an A. And it still has room. We could absolutely have a year that blows my socks off and makes it an S tier season. That makes an S tier chunk of chapters. But right now I think it's very comfortably and happily at an A. After that, Shadow Eliminators. We've got 4 chapters. I read up to chapter 2, and I immediately dropped it, so I've read 50% of the series. I've read 2 out of 4 chapters. I do think I'm allowed to rank it. I don't know if I should, though. I've got a bias. That's really it. I've got a bias, and when I like a series because it manages to, make me surpass my bias. But since I'm biased against it, I feel like I'm gonna bow out. I'm just gonna bow out. I'm gonna say I haven't read it. I think that's the fairest way to put it. Because, I would put it at a D, but, and, when I do the fantasy rounds, when I do the, let's actually rank it as much as I can, it'll probably be a D. But right now, I'll put it as haven't read. Again, I've read 50%, but that also means I haven't read 50%. It could be, really turning things around in a way I would actually really like, but I haven't seen it. So, it is what it is. Similarly, Tenmaku Cinema. How much did I read past chapter 1, right? I definitely read past chapter 1. But yeah, I didn't read it off channel or anything, so wherever I stopped is wherever I stopped, and, it was okay. I'm always trying to fill the hole in my heart that Actage left behind, quite honestly. Like, Akane-banashi, started around when Actage, got canned, and, I definitely, transposed some thoughts to it, slash, it's in a similar-ish category. Tenmaku Cinema is actually much closer, but I do think, Tenmaku didn't quite manage to pull me into the world of cinema the way Actage drew me into acting, or the way that Akane-banashi, was able to draw me into Rokugo. And, I do think it is just a taste thing. Because it essentially is Hikaru no Go, but for, for making a short film. Or for making film in general. I never got past the point where they made the short film. And yeah, it didn't really click with me. For whatever reason. I think it is just, the balance of ingredients. Nothing was necessarily bad. It was just halftime I was like, I don't, I understand why Tenmaku is here, but it feels like the series would just be fine without him if our main characters had a bunch of inspiration or something. Again, I stopped around where he was going to meet with someone who Tenmaku knew in life, so again, there's a bias there, but based on what I saw this year, I think I realistically have to put it. I could put it in Haven't Read, because there's a big chunk that I haven't read. I think I will. And then, when I do the sort it out, I'll sort it out then. After that, we've got Tokyo Demon Bride Story. How much of that was it? Okay, so from chapter 18 to the very end. So we got the Homeranagi. Okay, so this was after the gang of four, yokai they had to beat up. Oh, this is gonna actually be a big negative this time, because early Tokyo Demon Bride Story I think is some of my favorite Tokyo Demon Bride Story. Right. It was this guy, and he's secretly a monster. But yeah, after this, there was a little something else. Then we just basically immediately went into the we have to go save our main girl arc, which I was not really a fan of. It was okay. I think I did end up reading the entire series on channel, right? But yeah, it's it was definitely past the prime of the series. So I think I'm slapping it as a straight D. There were a few things I did enjoy quite a bit. The big twist with her aunts I thought was actually pretty funny. Also having Jinta do the big I'm going chop off my arm, actually while of course not actually doing the thing gets you a mark off. In general, I'm still very affected by someone who is willing to get their arm cut off and then it doesn't actually get cut off. Because I do put a lot of weight on the willingness, on the could I do this? Would I actually allow it to happen? Would I risk myself for this? And Tokyo Demon Bride Story is what I was mixing up with Bone Collection, actually, because they're not quite the same, but they're similar-ish. They're both harem yokai series. I do think harem yokai series definitely get a bump over normal yokai series for me. But yeah, not much to say about it, especially this year. It would have done a lot better if I did this ranking last year. Oh well, I hope the mangaka does try again. I do think the mangaka is very good, and this was the series I was talking about when I was talking about a one-shot that, was, the chapter 1 was as close to the one-shot as I have ever seen in any manga ever. This was one for sure where the mangaka had a very clear idea of what they wanted to do. In terms of the main cast, and then I do think the saving the main girl arc. I think those were definitely planned out from the very, very start. Because once we added Frankenstein Girl, absolutely flopped. Absolutely was not a character anyone was interested in. It was a real okay, she does not feel like she fits in. And I mean, even her role was a very clear I'm gonna be off to the side. Everyone else is living in the house and just vibing and all that. I'm so superfluous. You're not even gonna bring me along for the final arc. But yeah, so I do think the mangaka could definitely do better next time around. It really does come down to, I guess, planning a little more, but at the same time also just taking into account whatever they were told this time around. I would hope that they do another harem series, and they simply read some other harem series, take the criticism into account, and produce like a series that works a little bit better, because I do think there are plenty of things I really liked about Tokyo Demon Bride story. Like, I liked, Jinta being a part of a family, and that family including, like, a bunch of girls, but they are not part of the harem, and they're never included as a part of the harem. It is just a straight, like, these are the familial bonds here, and this is why specifically, like, our main girl marrying him and being his bride is, like, so big and important. It is not simply just, oh, there's a girl I really like, or which of these girls do I like. It's a very clear, like, no, we are going to get married, and I don't remember this, but I'm someone who cares about family. She's someone who wants a family, and is like very attached to me. We're gonna try and figure out how to make this work. It's a fantastic series. Like, if it kept going, I do think we could have gotten something better out of it. It's just I don't think you could do it in Jump. I think, if the mangaka had a time to, like, pause, then come back to it, it would be a lot better. They just needed some time to cook, and, that's just not the way Jump works until you're, like, very deep in. After that, we, of course, have Two on Ice, just the whole series, of course. How much is out right now? 14 chapters. I stopped around chapter 6, so I've read a little less than half. I mean, you know what? I will rank this one against, the rules or anything. I do feel like I have got enough of the series to rank it, because I left right at a point where, like, we resolved one of the big conflicts, and we, did a very clear setup of, like, this is the direction we have to go in. This is why we cannot be Two on Ice. And I thought it was very cool. I thought it was really well done. I think it's a solid, like, C leaning up to B. But yeah, I don't think it could be a proper B. It's not something I would, like, continuously read. In the same way that, like, like, Blue Box, I think, could have made it to a B if I kept on reading it, once I catch back up properly, even. It's the kind of series where, like, I wouldn't read it because I've read most of it off channel, but, there's always the possibility. But, it's the kind of series that, I don't think I do great reactions to. It's the kind of series where I don't think people really want to see, like, like, some guy react to them. After that, Undead Unluck. Oh, now this is a toughie, because, like, Undead Unluck is always great, but, like, where did we start this year? Oh my god, it was the Void fight. Oh my god, it was when she just showed up and was like, hey, Void, I'm gonna fight you. Oh my god. Oh my god. But, oh, that's crazy. So yeah, we had the Void fight, we had the Negator War, we had, like, the entire school arc, we had the reveal of where Andy is, like, we just had the ramen fights. Like, there was so much happened in this. Yeah, because Void was there for the Negator War, right? That's the kind of thing where I say it out loud, yeah. It doesn't feel like that's possible. Like, how the hell did we do all of that here? Oh my god. But yeah, easy S. Like, I truly, I don't know what, like, if Undead Unluck would have ever at any point not been at the very top. Maybe, like, no, because it started at the start of 2020. So even 2020, first year where it had, like, the early chapters that I wasn't a super big fan of, even then, by the end of the year, I would have definitely, like, we would have gotten up to Andy versus Victor. Like, we would have 100% put that in S. So yeah, Undead Unluck is just, it's the kind of series that 100% vibes with me every single chapter. Even the chapters where I don't particularly like the main character of it, the chapter manages to convince me that, in fact, no, I do like them. I never would have thought I would have liked Sean, but Sean is incredibly cool. I don't think I would have ever, like, said I liked the communications guy. But, in his chapters during the Negator War, I fully bought him. I fully understood his appeal. I liked him a lot. I loved his interactions with Billy. Like, it's the perfect series. Like, especially where we are right now, where it is also that layer of, like, it is a series in which every single character we have ever seen is almost certainly going to be on our side. Like, apart from the monsters, essentially. But, like, basically everyone else, that we've ever seen is going to be recruited at some point, and we know some about what, a bit of who they are. We may not know the whole thing. We're still fleshing them out. It's the real, like, if you really love them already, you're going to like them even more. If you don't really like them, the mangaka will find a way. Tozuka will make you love them. And then Witch Watch. Witch Watch, I think, has to be an A. Like, for a lot of these, they've been a very clear sorting of, like, there's a clear division here of, like, being up, I read a lot of it on stream, or I read the whole thing on stream, even if it's a series that didn't quite survive. And then like See Below is like that's where it gets more iffy. That's where it's like the series I dropped or whatnot. Like I do think this actually makes a lot of sense. I didn't intend it to be that way. Like I said it like early on, but I was still like keeping it open. But I do think this 100% makes like complete coherent sense. Like just by the very nature of it, I'm kind of forcing myself to stick with the series. If if I do like internally in my heart of hearts think it's a C or a D. Whereas like the one big exception is Witch Watch. I really, really wish I had continued reacting to Witch Watch, and I think we're too deep in at this point. Slash, like it is the kind of series where I do think it's a it's a weird one to react to. Like not a ton of people on the server are super into Witch Watch, but it is my perfect kind of series. It's a gag series that is really, really fun. It is like a harem series, quote unquote, in terms of the dynamic, in terms of like there's one girl, there's a bunch of guys all living in her house. Or I guess she's living in Moi's house. But like we've got the main pair, then you have like the way everyone bounces off each other. Like I in a lot of harem series as well, I don't really care that much for the harem aspect as much as I care about like the extremely dense like web of interactions. And Witch Watch does that so perfectly. Like all the guys have interesting interactions with all the other guys. I mean, we finally have like 2 other girls, I guess 3 technically, but 2 living in the house. And they are both actually no, she's not living in the house. So I guess it's 1 girl living in the house right now. It does not feel overstuffed at all. We have plenty of like other characters of of multiple genders. We have plenty of like villains, some of which have been redeemed, some of which aren't quite redeemed. They're not on our side, but they're no longer going to attack us. Like we've been pushing the like the romance forward while still having very clear reasons why it can't be fulfilled in a way that I find extremely satisfying. Like again, I like harem series. I'm happy to read an entire series where there's no resolution to the romance until the very end, if the character dynamics permit it. Like if the character dynamics are good enough to make me like enjoy that eternal wait. And Witch Watch is one where like it's not even an eternal wait. There is this like I do feel the cogs moving forward, and every time it makes sense, and every time it does feel like we're getting closer. And even right now, like we are beyond the end point of the series, or like the end point, quote unquote, and yet we're still moving forward, and it's a complete refresh that I find extremely good, that I am extremely happy with. Like it's not a series I would want to run forever, but I'm happy to let the mangaka continue on. It's Kenta Shinohara, right? Like the same person who did Astro Lost in Space. Like incredible mangaka, incredible. I truly, what an insanely good series. Like in terms of comedy manga in Jump, I might like it pound for pound more than Roboco. I think Roboco was better as a reaction series, but even then, to be fair, there's a lot of flop chapters. If I can read Roboco on stream, I could probably do Witch Watch, at least in the pre-recordeds. But they're a bit stuffed right now, so I think it's fine. I'll just enjoy it off the side. But this is my big recommendation. If you're someone who only watches my reactions, you don't care that much about like some of the other series in Jump, or if you read a bunch of series but you don't read Witch Watch and you watch my reactions for like certain series and whatnot, I would highly recommend giving Witch Watch a shot. And it is a series that gets better as it goes along, but I think if you're not into it within like the first 2 volumes, that's so much. I do think the first volume it's a bit rough. There's still some like feeling it out. Second volume, I think, is where like it really starts to hit the pattern that I really like. And after that point, like it progressively gets better, but also the energy is very similar to that second volume. Like the mangaka finds other fun things to do. Moi definitely becomes more funny as a character without losing that like that dry everyman wit. But like it's the thing I love from just ensemble comedies in general, where you eventually hit a point where the straight man, you find some strangeness in the straight man, and you find some like straight manning in everyone else, so that they too can like join in on the fun instead of just being, the party pooper. And it's a good series for fights. Like genuinely, the fights in Witch Watch are very well done. It's extremely clever. It's like but it manages to bring back so many things, especially in the gag chapters. Like the gag chapters work extremely well as their own thing, and just as like one off. Let's have some funs, and then every once in a while, something will come up from one of the gag chapters into one of the the current big serious arcs, and it just feels so natural. It's like, well, yeah, of course. Like, it is the simultaneous, like, of course this makes sense. This is great. There's also that layer of, like, you can speculate, you can think about all the gag chapters and try to figure out, like, what are we going to do? What's the solution here? And then if you don't quite manage to get it, or if you're not thinking about it that hard, it can knock your socks off when it's like, oh yeah, we have the spell. The spell has been there the entire time, but we just did something really dumb and silly and funny with it. So we never considered how it would work in, like, a battle context, or in a saving your life context, or even just in a, like, changing the scenario context. It is unbelievably clever. It's extremely fun. The cast, I think, could just continue to do their thing forever. Like, I wouldn't want the series to go on forever, but honestly, I might not be against it. Like, I think, once Moy and oh my god, what is her name? Nico. Once Moy and Nico get together properly, I mean, again, we thought like a certain something was the end of the series, and it was not the end of the series. So even if they get together, which they haven't officially yet, I still think they could keep on going. We could just the cast of characters are the Witch Watch. They are there to keep an eye on Nico the witch. They are the ones who are protecting her. They are her watch. Therefore, she's gonna need protecting forever. We may as well just, we could keep doing it forever. But I also do think Kenta Shinohara is the kind of person who almost certainly has, like, if not epilogues planned for everyone, at the very least an idea of where everyone should be going. It's a series where I'd be very stunned if we don't have a very satisfying ending for everyone. But yeah, that's that. That's Jump. We went through everything. These are my official rankings. I'll take a snapshot of these. After this, let's do a quick go through the haven't reads. Again, for stuff that I've read a little bit of this year, I'll sort these out. But I guess just, assorted spoilers depending on the series. But I'll try, I did my, I tried to talk about anything that would be a spoiler for the series in the segments that I did for them. So, it should be fine. Yozakura 100% didn't read anything this year, so definitely not. It's still gotta be in hasn't read. Blue Box, I read a little bit. I think from what I did read, again, it is very effective. It's either a B or a C. I'm not 100% sure. I do need to just sit down and do a proper reread of the entire series, because it's also a series where, I've read it strangely, and so, I definitely am missing some of the emotional buildup I should have for certain things. Even the confession. If I were properly 100% invested in all of, in Shinatsu and Taiki, to the extent that I would be for, a series I was reading weekly, I feel like it would have hit a little bit harder, but it still hit. It still hit. I'm still very proud of my boy. And I'm proud of Shinatsu for, striving to be, to be at the very top, even bringing in someone who, could dethrone her from being at the very top. Honestly, I'll slap it at a B. Why not? After that, Cipher Academy. Again, did not read a whole lot of Cipher Academy this year. Let me just do a quick check, actually. Because, yeah, that's chapter 7 to current. So, actually, wait, Houmii, you can't be correct, right? Yeah, wait, no, this is Blue Box. I'm an idiot. So yes, Chapter 7 to current for Cipher Academy, not Blue Box, does in fact make sense. Chapter 7 was... Right, that was the first big, more than one person has glasses, before realizing, I guess everyone in this place has... Not everyone, but, a lot of them. Yeah, I stopped reading around, Identity Withheld's, when we see her face. But yeah, so we still had a lot of very memorable things that I was here for. That entire arc was really good. Iraha, how do I put it? Realizing that part of Iraha's backstory is, having danced in a war zone. The ambiguity as well of, Iraha is almost certainly trans, but I don't know in which direction. I guess female to male, actually, is a bit clearer in that would be the, you don't have to assume that the people in the war zone were particularly progressive. It would also make sense in a, Cipher Academy, like, by the very rules, like, admitted him because, like, genetically, he is, like, he would, mark as a girl. Therefore, he would have the genetic aptitude for cracking, ciphers. I think that there's a little more, possibility there. But yeah, like, it was banging. It truly is, my only problem with Cipher Academy truly is just that I feel like a complete idiot reading it every single week. Or, like, every time I catch up, I'm constantly just going, damn, how the fuck is Nisio like this? I mean, to be fair, every single thing I've ever read that Nisio has ever written, I have walked away from it going, how is Nisio like this? I think the first thing of his I ever read was the Death Note light novel, which has a truly insane twist that works really well, if you are a fan of Death Note, and that once you think about it in hindsight, it's like, this is completely goddamn bonkers. What a ridiculous, insane twist, but I also buy it. But I mean, I also love Monogatari, and Monogatari is also very similar. I guess that's the thing. Like, all the series also definitely give me this feeling of, like, goddamn, I don't have, like, the emotional intelligence for this, or I, could not come up with this, like, puzzle, or this is just so crazy that it's on another level. Where Cipher Academy is just truly like, oh my god, I can't even comprehend half these ciphers. I'm pretty sure the translator had to quit, right? Kumar or something or another. Like, he did it for a while, and he had to just stop because he was like, this is too much. This is insane. How can a human being translate this? Oh my god. But yeah, I would put Cipher at a C. Like, everything I've read, I liked, and I can't. I stopped reading for a bit, but I think that's also part of it. Of, like, even if it's like a sports series and it's kind of inexplicable to me, if it's good enough, I'll keep on reading it, even if I don't understand what the hell is happening. Cipher Academy, I think, leans too hard into Niso's like love of creating new characters. Like, even where I last left off, I'm pretty sure we started to introduce some of the other classes, and it was like, there's too many quirky girls. I can't handle all these quirky girls in one series. Oh no, they got too much going on. Jujutsu Kaisen have read literally nothing of this year. I'm also retracting what I said before of, like, I might watch Jujutsu Kaisen 0. I might, like, watch the anime and react to it. The reaction slots are way too filled up for that. That, and also, like, truly everything I've gotten from my good friend Tequila Zaku, like, he's been very good about not spoiling anything. But I do just think Jujutsu Kaisen just is not the kind of series I'd be very into. Like, it seems interesting that, it seems like there's some vague, like, I would like it for, it's more Hunter x Hunter-y vibes and whatnot. But I think conversely, it seems like a very solid, I would end up ranking it as like a C. So, regardless, I probably shouldn't react to it. I feel like they would be disappointing reactions. Similarly, Newey's Exorcist. I truly, even, bending the rules a little bit, I don't think I can say I've read it. Truly. I can't fully comprehend how it's, doing as well as it is, if it is exactly the way it was when I was reading those initial chapters. So I assume it's probably grown in some way, but I can't, obviously for obvious reasons, I can't exactly speculate my way into, like, reading it in a different way. Then Shadow Eliminators. Again, I read 2 chapters and 2 chapters, so I'm vaguely qualified. Actually, wait, did I read 2 chapters? I don't think I did. Never mind. I'm pretty sure I loaded the second chapter. Like, because I meant to read the chapter 2. So yeah, I 100% cannot say I've read Shadow Eliminators. That's why it marked chapter 2. Because, to be fair, I'll be completely transparent about this one. Sometimes I also load the wrong chapters when I'm, like, putting stuff up because I just misclick. That's also definitely why some of them are screwed up. Because I have, like, opened them. Like, Chrome has registered that I have opened the chapter, but you better believe I have not read it. That explains a lot, because, I couldn't remember a damn thing from chapter 2. I was surprised I got there, but I didn't. And then Tenmaku Cinema, from what I read, I feel like it would be a D. Like, I like the girl. That's about it. Like, our main character is okay, but, he wasn't able to grip me. And that is it's part of his design. He's supposed to be the one who's, like, trying to pull the brakes, the one who is, like, confused, the one who's like, this is insane. But I do think, like, just for the way the series is, it was a weird mix. Or, like, it was a mix that didn't appeal to me personally. I think if Tenmaku was more involved, maybe it would have worked. Maybe if there was, like, like, if his friends, I think, were pulling the brakes harder and he was the one who was, like, pushing harder, that might have also changed it. It's just, like, it's the balance of everything that was kinda thrown off. So, yeah, this is the ultimate tier list. This is the maximum power, like, I cannot rank any more than I have ranked. I'm not sure if this is, like, particularly more interesting, but I did it. So, that is that. I I guess there's no real reason to, like, put these, like, to put the pictures down below, so I won't. I don't know, I guess I could. There's no reason not to, conversely. It's just, it doesn't feel like there really is a reason to, because you can watch the video. You've seen them. You've seen the video. Blow this up into glorious 720p, because I don't record in 1080p. All right, so that is that. Is there anything else left to say? I guess just, like, what am I hoping for 2024? That's an interesting question. Like, we've filled out Jump with a fair number of interesting series. And I do think, like, yeah, from B and upwards is all stuff that I think will stick around. C below, like, even for the series that are continuing on, I'm going to give it a hard, like, I don't think they're going to stick around. Then the Haven't Reads are ambiguous. The Haven't Reads, I think, could all stick around. So yeah, I'm not expecting any more yokai series to stick, but I know they're gonna run a couple. I'm gonna say right now, top of my head, 5 new yokai series. And that includes, like, yokai harems and whatnots. Just, if there are monsters, that 5 feels like so little, actually. Like, how many started this year? Let me do a quick one. So, the ones we added were Kagurabachi does not count. Honestly, fewer series started than I thought. Like, this is counting every series that started as well as, like, continuing ones. Mama Yu, I'll give it the, like, the Demon Lords, I think, are yokai in a sense. But apart from that, it's really, yeah, so it's Mama Yu, it is Shadow Eliminators, and it's Niue's Exorcist. That's really the only 3 that are yokai series. The others are, like, what we are fighting, it does not quite count. Like, you could squint for, like, like, Ginka Gluna didn't even start this year, but you could kind of squint if you really wanted to classify it as such based on chapter 1, but not really. But okay. In that case, I think I'm pretty confident, actually, in saying 5. Because also, like, that's not counting series that are just continuing on. And, like, we have a fair base of, like, continuing a series. Like, I do think it seems like, Niue's Exorcist is going to stick around. Jujutsu Kaisen obviously is going to stick around. Like, until it meets its end. I know we're in the final arc, but it's manga. It's Jump. You know how long a final arc can be. So yeah, I'm going to say 5 yokai series. That's actually an increase, but I think that's because, like, we're missing other, like, things that you could splash yokai into. So, first prediction, 5 yokai series. Second prediction, you know what? 1 actual isekai. I think we've been long overdue for it. It's very clear the editors are, they're looking for, like, they're looking for something with isekai energy that isn't quite an isekai. I feel like there's probably actually a lot of, like, internal debate over, like, do we allow this? Like, Jump is a, place for original series, so of course you're not going to get any, like, light novel adaptations. But, like, for something that carries on the exact same spirit, I think we'll get one. I mean, Mama Yu, I guess, is as, like, that's just, it's not a from our worlds to a fantasy world isekai, but it is very much an isekai. It is nothing if not people coming to a world from another world. A small shout out to the podcast We Watch 100 Isekai, which I have absolutely tanked because I have no time to do anything, and also I'm extremely unmotivated. But yeah, so I'll say a, like, straight up, people from our world, actual our Japan, not even a twist of, like, actually this Japan is different. Like, I think we're getting a straight up from our Japan to another world isekai in 2024. I think they're gonna dip their toes in the waters. Whether it works or doesn't, who knows? Because, like, they definitely want to do more fantasy stuff. Like, Ginka Gluna and Icehead Gill were also both, like, cold fantasies. I feel like there's probably going to be a bias against that now, but I think they still want it to happen. Feels like there's space for, like, 1 more gag series as well, but, I don't quite, we might not. We've got a fair few like sports series now as well, like Asumi, Green Greens. I think we might be full for like the sports series for like a bit. Like I do think the place we are right now with Jump is pretty darn good. There's quite a few things now that I think could stick around and grow and become like new big tent poles that are going to stick around for a long, long time. Like yeah, this is a really, really good position. And of the various like long running series, there's not a lot that I think is gonna end. Like I think for sure My Hero is gonna end. Like Horikoshi's all of it, like I mean he stated it would end this year, but I didn't buy that for a second. I think My Hero might end next year. Undead Unluck also might, but I would bet less on that. I think we've actually got a lot of space now. Like in terms of recruiting more people and also like the big final battle, I think the final battle is going to, like surprise us when it does actually crop up. But I think we also have plenty of stuff to do before we get to that point. There's still plenty of fleshing out and like big reveals and like, like forming the ultimate union that we still have to do. So yeah, I think it's just My Hero. Because yeah, Black Clover, we're at 4 chapters a year now. I mean, that's not even a Jump series. Like next year, I don't think it's even going to be on here. I guess I should have left off the most recent chapter in my ranking, but it wouldn't have changed anything. Now, I think next year we'll have more fantasy in general. Like, I think we'll get our first straight-up isekai, but I think also Black Clover leaving, I didn't even think about that. That opens up a big possibility for, like, a big, explosive, like, fantasy, not our world at all, just a straight-up fantasy adventure to really take off. I think, like I said Gill flopping and Ginka and Gluna flopping, they're going to create some like friction there. But if people have the idea of like I could do one of the big classic Jump series, I could do the next Dragon Ball, they're gonna take it. Like same with the Mashle ending as well. Yeah, I think next year I'm expecting more fantasy. I'm expecting 1 actual isekai. I'm expecting 5 yokai series. They might also be fantasy. They might also be the 1 isekai. And I should have one last thing. I'm going to end it on, I think we're getting another harem series. Jump is missing a good harem series. I feel like we're going to get a Reiwa-ass harem series. We're going to get one. It's going to be fast. Or like, it's going to be fast and explosive with, like, the love interests. And whether that is a, like, we have one main couple get together and then everyone's kind of vibing, whether it's a Witch Watch situation, I don't think it'll be like a gag manga. I guess that's really it. Like, maybe it'll be like a battle harem or something that could also tie into the isekai. People love their isekai main character and the 20 girls who want to date him, but they're all, like, it's definitely a bad relationship for them. It's just a good relationship for him. But yeah, I think for sure we need another harem because like as much as I call Witch Watch a harem, it's not. It is like it is platonic friends in a house. Especially right now, I would definitely say right now it is not a harem. But yeah, I think we need one more, and I don't know what form it'll take. I feel like it's gonna try and be like an unjump-like, jump-like harem. It's gonna try and shake things up. It's gonna try and be not your dad's harem series, not your Rumiko Takahashi series. Yeah, honestly, it might be like something akin to a We Never Learn, where it is more like spread out, where the character everyone wants to win, gets an actual chance, where there is a layer of like unpredictability to it. And also, like this is kind of just an obvious one, but I imagine we're gonna get something else in the like more scratchy, Chainsaw Man-y, like, that vibe. But yeah, that's not even a real prediction. That's just a straight up, like, people still want to do it. There's there's an opening. People want to jump in. I feel like we're going to see at least one start, and I think it's going to flop. Because, the style and the vibes of Chainsaw Man are part of what made it sell. But, there's a lot more there. There's a lot of substance. And, you can make anything work if you have, the right substance, if you manage to resonate with the right people. But a lot of the like more copycat series, they feel like a lot of the yokai series that flop, where it's just like, people like, like series like this, but they don't like it just inherently because they point and go, oh, monsters. I like monsters. I like it when guy beats up monsters. You gotta have something there. You gotta have a little riz. You gotta have a little like, you gotta have some interesting takes. You gotta have some like, character dynamics that people are really into. All of which I imagine at least one of those New Age Exorcist has to have past the point where I read it. I might catch up just to see. I want to know why people like it. But now we are getting Incoherent. And now, I think it is time for me to leave. I did pause at some point and celebrated the new year, so the rest of this has actually been in 2024. Despite my future knowledge, I have not yet figured out the absolute truth of what people want, so we'll figure it out together. Next week, probably a jump stream. This week, we will see. I'm definitely going to do a Jujolian. After that, who knows? I hope you guys have a safe and happy 2024. I hope things go really well for you. I also hope something goes well for me. I really, 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 I want to move forward a bit in life. And so while, of course, a jump is going to happen, we'll see. I'm hoping to, progress a little bit, whether it's, romantically or whether it is financially, whether it is my physical place, whether it is schooling, perhaps. We'll see. But yeah, so I will move forward. I hope you all manage to move forward as well with whatever you want to move forward with. I hope any setbacks are temporary and you manage to push on through. And I will see you next week for next jump, and every week after that, more or less. We'll see. At the very least, I'll cover all the weeks, even if I'm not quite there for the week. We'll see. Who knows? Who knows? Thank you guys so very much. If you want to support me, go to the Patreon down below. It's on my Patreon. It is my fiance's Patreon, but it's where we pay for expenses and whatnot. I'll be straight up. That's where my travel budget has come from. It's also definitely where any streaming services. It's honestly that is the money I use to pay for Jump, because Jump did go up $1, which isn't a lot, but it's a bit. I do think it helps a lot to know okay, Jump is paid for. There's one of you out there. Your money is being marked as the Jump Fund. You are the reason why I and Donut can read Weekly Shonen Jump. I want to do that actually. Choose individual people and do the big okay, you are specifically the Jump person. You are the hamburger person. We'll see. That might also be a 2024 thing. Who knows? What a crazy year. Anyways, that's it. I will also try to not be scatterbrains as much next year. I don't know what's happening to me. I think I need the streams so someone can tell me to stop. Okay, that's it. We're done. Bye for now. Nya nya.